Hi, this is the Palm Print Living Room Conversation Series, and I'm your host, Kelechi Okere. So this is where we talk about African literature, the issues that African authors bring up in literature. With this series, we're continuing with our look at the lives of children as portrayed by some African writers. And with this conversation, we'll be talking about We Need New Names, a novel by Zimbabwean writer NoViolet Bulawayo, where we meet the 10-year-old Darlin and her friends, and they take us through their lives in Zimbabwe. So let's get started. Now that you bring it up, the whole issue of identity, right?
Right.
Because there was a part where when they confront the white guy,
yes,
right? The guy is like, "Who are you? You know, this is my country
this
too.
Is my country
my
too,
dad
yeah.
was born here. I
Right.
was born here. I'm African, right?
Right.
And one of the kids goes, "What's an African?"
Yeah, that was God knows.
So he goes, "What's an African?"
Yeah. What does it mean to be African?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, in this, it's sort of like the question that came to me is, how do we define who we are?
So what?
What's our identity and under these sort of circumstances, you know, and does it help us, right? Under circumstances of poverty, under circumstances like that where the guy's property is being taken from him.
We've just experienced the land grabs, where this typical incident was happening.
Yeah.
Where black freedom fighters, liberators, so-called liberators, were then invading these white people's farms and taking over. So these questions, this conversation really happened where they would approach them and say, "This land belongs to us. You have time to vacate, leave. We're taking over."
Yeah.
So you'd find that the white people then were asking, "But this is my home.
I'm also born here. My dad was born here, so this makes me."
Yeah. So the conversation is typical of what was happening.
But then that also, I think, begs the question of, is it an identity of convenience, right? So would that white guy, under other circumstances, say the same thing, that he's an African?
Yeah, in fact, he's the one who say I'm African too.
Yeah.
Because I was born here.
Yeah.
He's claiming his birthright. You know,
but he's claiming it for the sake of land.
For the sake of,
but
that's what I mean. For the sake of saving himself in that particular
not for
instance.
the sake, his birth certificate is Zimbabwe.
We
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
But what if?
Go ahead.
No, but what if we say like Zimbabwe was under attack, and would he defend Zimbabwe the way he's saying that now I am Zimbabwean because I was born here, I have the land, and that's why he's raising that it's for a convenience. You know?
Okay.
Well,
or people.
If you think about it, during let's use America for example, during the slave trade and during the civil rights movement, you know, you have black people saying, you know, I'm also American. I was born here.
Yeah.
You know, my ancestors they took them from their lands and they brought them here, and I was born here, so I am American, so I deserve the right to vote, I deserve the right to freedom, I deserve the right to speech. Why did they have to fight? Why did they have to struggle to prove that they are Americans? If you think about this issue of this white guy saying, "I'm African, my grandfather was born here, and I was born here, so I deserve this land." If you weigh the two issues, they are like similar in such a way. Is he saying he's African because of that privilege?
He is.
He's a privileged African.
I mean, we have to be careful.
Is the land. That's the issue.
Without the land, would he still say he's African?
Exactly.
Yeah. So if let's say he was
I'm not talking in their defense, but I'm saying I think everybody feels home is where they were born and raised.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, and that's how you usually identify yourself.
And in somewhere in this excerpt it says your ancestral bones, you know, are buried there. They have their graves there. So to them, this is their land too.
Yes.
But there's the question of the land that now, after independence, Zimbabwe then turned around and said, "Wait a minute, let's remind you, this is not your land. We're going to take it."
Yeah.
So I think she's trying to establish that fact that this is the reality, and these are the statements and the conversations that happen. only that they're coming out of a child's mouth, which is very skillful. Like
absolutely.
So I think she's addressing that fact.
Leaving your country is like dying, and when you come back, you are like a ghost returning to earth, roaming around with a missing gaze in your eyes.
Leaving their mothers and fathers and children behind, leaving their umbilical cords underneath the soil, leaving the bones of their ancestors in the earth, leaving everything that makes them who and what they are, leaving because it is no longer possible to stay. They will never be the same again, because you just cannot be the same once you leave behind who and what you are. You just cannot be the same.
She was very colorful in the way she addressed some very thorny issues that people would not openly discuss.
Yes.
And the fact that we're actually talking about it, like I definitely would like to thank her for doing that, because it's not easy to talk about these very like sensitive issues, especially pertaining to the land redistribution exercise in Zimbabwe and how the whole thing sort of like unfolded and who's in the blame, who did what correct and stuff. It's a very thorny political issue, but I think she just did a good job of saying, okay, hey, can we just talk about this like in a light-hearted manner?
I think it's a situation not a lot of people know about. I used to work with a guy, white guy, who was born in Zimbabwe, who's from Zimbabwe, and his parents owned a farm and so on and so forth. And one time I got into a conversation with him, and the bitterness in his voice, right, when it was talking about the land grab, was just like, it was just so raw and, you know, impalpable that I just kind of said,
You thought it
all right, let me exit left on this conversation.
Reservations as to what you thought, maybe in the conversation, because it happens to me. I mean, I went to school with some of them. I worked with some of them.
Yeah.
So it's that discussion where you say to yourself, had I had the opportunity to mediate or advocate for this kind of grab, what would I have done better? How would I have done it differently? But what are the gains, historically speaking, for the generations to come that has been established out of this? So I feel like it's a typical, sensitive, important piece of conversation that not just Zimbabwe, but even South Africa is going through.
I think they enacted something.
So it's been awakened, you know.